What is up, everybody? My name's Kyle Shutt. Welcome back to The Highway. Is it a podcast? Is it a talk show? Is it an interview series? I don't know. Make up your own mind. What I can tell you is that this week's guest is one of my favorite people on the planet, Laura Pleasance from Kylesa and The Discussion. She and I have so much in common and go way back, even before the Sword days. It was such a pleasure to catch up with her. I really hope you enjoy the conversation. If you like what you're hearing on the program, please follow where you can follow, subscribe where you can subscribe, and if you want to go one step further, you can find us on patreon.com/thehighway, where you can kick in a little bit extra, help us keep going, and also maybe even get yourself a shout out like Bob Bechtal, Mike Young, and Bob Mavity. Those are just our first three. We got a lot more coming, and also we got no sponsors yet. This is still fun. It's just us gathered around the old proverbial campfire, and that means we get to do things my way.
The Highway.
Hey, Laura, what's going on?
Hey, Kyle. Not much. Drinking my morning coffee.
Oh, yeah, me too. I love doing these in the morning. Some people like to do them later at night, and it's can depending on what we're drinking, the conversation can go one way or the other.
I'm sure.
But Laura Pleasance from Kylesa, The Discussion, many other projects and things. Such a pleasure to have you on the show. It's one of the fun parts for me of doing this is talking to people that have been getting in the van and touring since the 90s and stuff like that, because times are so different now. I just love hearing people's perspective of how they got into music, just because, back in those days we had MTV, like just the whole environment was different, and the whole motivation to become a musician and to do the things that we did was so different than it is today. I just love hearing how people got into that. How did you decide to pick up a guitar and get in a van?
It's something I wanted to do from probably early teenage years. I must say, though, I didn't go on tour until the early 2000s.
Oh, okay. I thought Kylesa was around just before that.
No, we started in 2001, but we didn't go on tour, I want to say, until late 02, early 03.
So I must have seen those very first tours, because I saw y'all all the time in Austin back in the day.
I think
it seemed like y'all were in town like once a month.
Yeah, we definitely went out there a lot, because we would just drive straight from the East Coast to the West Coast, and so we'd always hit up. Austin would be in the middle. So I want to say it was winter or late 02 would have been the earliest I would have been on tour. Because I know I didn't go to the West Coast till like 03. But anyway, it was still before cell phones, and we had an Atlas and, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I think our drummer at the time had a cell phone, and that was it.
It's like the band phone. That was a common thing back in those days, where it's like, yeah, like the band would buy a burner phone, and like you had to pay by the minute, and you're like, no, we're not using it, man. Just stop at a payphone.
No, it was his phone, and he would be so annoyed because we all wanted to call home, But anyway, back to picking up the guitar. I think my first love was probably Guns N' Roses as a very young kiddo. I was like pretty obsessed with Slash. And then it wasn't until I was like maybe an early teenager and I fell in love with Black Sabbath, really in love with Black Sabbath. And that's when I wanted to get a guitar. And it took a while to get a guitar. It wasn't until I was like 15 that I convinced my parents to help me buy a guitar.
Was it the Guild S100? Was that your first guitar, or was that?
No, that was my first nice guitar. But my first guitar was an acoustic, like a little beginner Yamaha acoustic, and then soon after that, I got it was like a Gibson. It was an Epiphone Strat copy, just a cheap Strat copy that I started on.
Nice. And this is all in Savannah, or where did you grow up?
I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this was in North Carolina.
Nice. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. Well, was it art school that took you to Savannah?
That is correct. I came here right out of high school.
Man, how is Savannah holding up with the pandemic and everything? Because I heard the Jinx closed.
The Jinx closed. I think the pandemic was like the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was already struggling, but Savannah and Georgia in general has been pretty good compared to the rest of the country. I mean, people have been working, restaurants have been open, with a lot of changes, of course, but businesses are open, and that's good. I mean, it's good for me, it's good for the city, it's good for people who live here and work here. I can't imagine being in California or New York right now.
Yeah.
I'd probably just be, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how people are doing it. I don't know how you not work for this long and then survive.
It's been crazy. I mean, like Austin got hit really hard.
Yeah.
With just mass closures and just everyone was sitting at home. Yeah, I started painting out of nowhere.
I loved all your album cover. I didn't know you could paint, and I was like, oh, Kyle.
I didn't either.
Kyle's talented. He's good.
I just had to do what I had to do to survive through that wave of it.
I know. I did have a lot of quarantine. We all had some time where we weren't out at all, where everything was shut down, and I actually did a lot of painting too and a lot of mixed media stuff. I did some cool projects that I was pretty happy with.
You're a legit artist, though. I love your photography and all your painting and stuff too. It's
thanks.
I think it's a side that I don't know. Yeah, because Kylesa, it was you were known as a musician for so long, but you got your kind of start as an artist, right? Or I guess like that was always been a part of.
That's always been a part of who I am, especially going to an art school and earning my degrees, and it's always been a passion. They've always been kind of side by side, the music and the art. Mm-hmm. And obviously the Kylesa took prominence for a long time.
It takes a lot of time to be in a band.
It does.
You can't do anything else. Really, that's a lot of people ask me, like, what's the best advice for a musician? I was like, you just have to give up everything.
Yeah.
And dedicate your whole life
totally
to this band. It sounds so stupid, like this many years later, but when you're in the thick of it, it seems like the most important thing in the world.
I know. It's like, and it is. It's like you get wrapped up in it, and it is like it's the only thing that matters. Mm-hmm. And you give up everything. You got to give up everything. Yep.
Yeah, I can't. How many relationships just got burned, and just how many friendships turned sour, and it's funny how that happens. But it's totally worth it. I wouldn't have done anything different. It's just nothing like hopping on a plane, and then saying bye to your life. I don't know. I think there's a lot to be learned there. I wouldn't be the person I am if I hadn't just gone around the world 100 times.
Absolutely.
Just to play rock and roll. It just I love how it just eliminates bias. Just traveling, just seeing how the rest of the world lives. You really start to see like what we have in common.
Absolutely.
Rather than how different we are.
Yeah. It opens your eyes. It's you have a it's cliche to say, but a more worldly view, and a lot of experience. I wouldn't change it either. Had a wonderful experience. It was the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it was all good. And
the good. It's funny because like the good doesn't really happen all that often, but when it does, it's like so much better than any other good that it's totally worth it.
Totally true. That's so funny.
It's mostly airport bathrooms and just shitty dive bars and it's just a very dirty existence.
Very dirty. I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I wouldn't do that now, but then I was like, fuck it,
It's the older we get to, it's you forget how much work goes into even one tour.
Oh, I know.
Like the Sword was kind of, we had taken an extended hiatus, and Primus called us up to open their Rust tribute tour, and we were like, yeah, let's get the band back together. And then I just started thinking about it. I was like, oh man, I'm already tired. Like,
just thinking about it, I'm already tired.
I know, right? Yeah. Oh my goodness. But I'd still do it in a heartbeat.
When was that though? When did you guys do that?
It hasn't happened yet. COVID went ahead and wiped that out.
Okay.
Yeah, it was supposed to, honestly, it was supposed to be over and done with by now, but it's still on the books for June, July and August.
Okay. Well, I hope that happens.
Wolfmother Primus. Yeah, me too. I was really excited about it.
Yeah.
Especially just kind of after the Sword hiatus and all that, but that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, it's life.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about, because I had a sort of anomalous, I think, point of view with the Sword. Like, we used to just kill the U.S., and that was kind of our bread and butter in our territory. Anytime we went to Europe, it was always kind of a struggle. I mean, it's not like the shows were bad necessarily. It's just that they weren't like so much better that it made more sense to spend more time over there. Was Kylesa a band? Because a lot of bands that I talked to, they were like, oh man, if it wasn't for Europe, we wouldn't have been able to hang in there as long as we did, just because the States was so tough. And just every band has such a different experience with all that. I didn't know what your kind of take on that was.
Well, I think Europe was really our bread and butter, definitely. And I think some of it was situational and circumstantial, but I also think that our music, being as kind of esoteric as we kind of were, for whatever reason, and it was pretty dark too, Europe just embraced it more so than maybe the United States. I mean, the A markets of the U.S. were always really good to us, but it was everything in between that was a bit of that was kind of a struggle. When the economy kind of went to shit in 2008, we were sitting on Static Tensions was about to be released. It was released that spring, so in 2009, and and we were like, well, the U.S. economy is not great right now. Let's go to Europe. So we pushed hard.
I'm sorry.
We pushed hard in Europe, and the way that the euro and the dollar were is that the euro was so strong. So we spent couple of years just really pushing it over there. But we had already established a little fan base. We started going over there in 2005 on our second record, and it was kind of like a DIY squat tour. I booked some of it, met some people over the internet who helped me book it, and it was, a punk tour. And we did a couple of punk tours over there until we kind of graduated from that into bigger venues. But
it's booking Europe's tough just because even if you have a booking agent over there, it's like you can have a UK agent, and then you have the rest of Europe agent, and then you got to work with other people. Like the promoters it's not like the States.
Oh man, not at all. Like I think it took us a long time to break in the UK because we never had a good agent there. Our booking agent, who we worked with for the most part, was in Germany, and he came from the hardcore scene, and I was really kind of hesitant to work with a hardcore metalcore guy because we weren't that. And then so it was a lot of German shows, and then it was just a different world.
They help you get in those festivals and stuff,
right?
Though, and that can sometimes I know what you mean though. Like when you're like, should we be working with this agency? They kind of have a lot of death metal. Like we're the one weird band on there.
We were always
that can work in your favor. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean it was fine. We played a ton of festivals in Europe, and they were usually great. Some of my best memories of being on a big stage were from some of those festivals. A lot of fun. The U.S. was a bit of more of a grind. because you have this the vast amount of space between each city, unless you want to play every podunk town, if you want to. Let's do the B and C market tour. Yeah,
that's what we did. No, we did that.
So did we. I mean,
we did our time.
We definitely put in our time too. And some of those little cities end up being like really cool. But I guess like early on we hit the U.S. like really hard, and then towards like the middle of our career, I would say we spent more time in Europe, and then we went to Asia and Australia a few times, and
oh man, I think I definitely want to ask you about this because we did together, both our bands did the Soundwave tour.
Yes,
that was a wave of festivals. It was just kind of like all flying shows. It was probably the closest that we'll all get to feeling like total rock stars.
Yeah, that was amazing.
You're on a plane with like Slayer and I don't know, like
it was like Queens of the Stone Age, Slayer.
Yeah. Slash was up there. Yeah. I mean, like Primus. It was like if this plane goes down, rock and roll will never be the same.
I remember that it was crazy. Like the Melvins. We were playing like right either before or after the Melvins. I can't remember, and that was when they had Cody and Jared with them.
Yeah. God, that was fun. Those were good days.
That was a great tour.
The craziest show I think I've ever seen y'all have to play. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was y'all. Y'all had to go on right after Slayer canceled. Right?
Oh. Yeah, I think so.
Isn't that because I think that was y'all because like those stages were like like staggered A/B, so like one band's setting up while another band's playing.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember who was on, but while Slayer was supposed to be setting up, nothing was happening. And like
That's
the whole,
right.
You could tell the crowd was like, "What's going on?" And
God,
then like backstage, I remember
that.
Jared Warren from Big Business and Melvins at the time. He ran up to me. He goes, "Dude, Slayer's about to cancel in front of like 60,000 people. It's gonna be insane. You have to like." It's like I was like, "What's gonna happen?" Like riot cops were coming in with like shields and helmets and stuff, and like nobody knew what because
why did they cancel? Do you remember?
They had canceled their previous show there too. So this was supposed to be the makeup show.
Oh my God!
And it was like I want to say like Tom had a throat infection or something. It was just some ear infection. It was something kind of vague like that was their excuse, but like instead of they didn't know how to announce it, so they just literally when it was their time to play, somebody just went up on the stage and said, "I'm sorry, but Slayer's not gonna play." And I've never seen so much shit get thrown at a stage in my life.
That's actually, I remember that because that was such a weird thing with those stages. It was like the main stage was oftentimes right beside the second main stage, so it was like we went on after Slayer every day on that tour, which actually ended up being okay because of the way the stages worked. But it still felt weird. And then when I met Kerry King, he was like, "Yeah, you guys are going on after us every day." And I was like, can I buy you a shot of Jaeger? But yeah, I remember Philip freaking out. He's like, "Oh my God, we're going to have to kill it. It's going to have to be really brutal. Slayer canceled." And I was just like, what are we going to do? We just have to play,
I know. I just remember like
I was like, I don't know, we're in Australia, like whatever.
Yeah, the image I'll never forget was like a little 8-year-old kid in his Slayer shirt just crying.
So many pissed off fans.
I know, dude. There was this one dude, he was trying to light his Slayer shirt on fire with a lighter, but it was so sweaty that like he couldn't get it to catch. I mean, it was because it was Australia. It was like 112 out there.
Yeah, dude, that's so funny.
God. I just remember like just the wave of trash getting thrown at the stage. I was like, oh, and then watching y'all be like, okay, here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, go. And
I was like, oh, here we go. Shit. Here are our songs and they aren't Slayer songs. Here we are. We're not Slayer.
Oh my God. Oh jeez. Did you said you made it to Asia? That was the one thing I never got to experience, except for we did Japan a couple of times, but that was the most that we ever dipped into the Asian market.
Well, Japan,
how was that?
Japan is amazing.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I just always wanted to do Indonesia or like even like Korea or anything like that. I would see like a lot of metalcore bands.
So
were able to do that,
we did,
but
we did an Australian tour, and we jumped off of that tour and went to Indonesia and Malaysia, and
oh man,
and that was one of the more memorable moments of being with Kylesa for sure. I had no idea we had so many fans there, and the shows were awesome. It was only it was like 3 shows or 4 shows, but we had a few days off, so we were hanging out, and it's just such a culture shock. It's just so different that your senses are just on overload. Those shows are
Plus the jet lag and all that, too. You're just kind of like, high on no sleep. And
Oh
just
yeah,
man,
we did this crazy Australian tour with this guy, our buddy Robert, who drove us around, and we drove on this Australian tour. So long, crazy drives in like a minivan or something crazy.
Did you play like Wollongong and like all like the little towns in between, or did you just like hit the main cities but just drive 14 hours?
Yes, the latter.
Oof.
Yeah,
Oof.
yeah, it was brutal. But we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun on that tour. But no sleep, no sleep. Yeah. I was tired the whole time. But Asia was cool. I would really like to go back there. Someday. I'd like to go back to Indonesia and Malaysia, and also Japan. Japan was amazing, and we played Japan in 2009, so it was kind of right before. I think we kind of hit our stride with a couple of my favorite records, and no one really knew who we were. This Australian promoter who was living in Japan wanted to bring us over, so we said okay. And it was 10 days, and we were in a tiny minivan with a Japanese band called Birhushana, and they took us around, and it was crazy fun, and probably the best food I've ever had.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I love eating food in Japan.
I just wanted to. I ate so much amazing food, and I never felt bad. I was like, oh, this food is so good. It's probably because I didn't have any dairy like the entire time.
Right. The first time we ever went to Japan, I think we were in Nagoya, and our guide that picked us up and was in charge of taking us around, he was like, we're going to take you all out to dinner. It's going to be amazing tonight. I was like, I can't wait. I'm so excited. And then when we get to the restaurant, I was like, what kind of food is this place? He's like, oh, this is the best Chinese food in Japan. I was like, I came all the way to Japan to eat Chinese food.
Yeah, right? That's
funny. It was really good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. But we actually... we got to meet Pusshead in Japan because he lives in Japan.
Oh I know.
Did you get to meet him over there? Because he did the art for your first record.
I've met him.
Iconic art.
I met him a few times in San Francisco. I've had lunch with him a few times.
He's a real sweet guy. He's like 7 foot tall.
He's very tall.
Version of I don't mean this in a mean way, but he looks like Wallace from Wallace and Gromit.
Oh yeah,
the cartoons, if you remember
he
those kind of, he kind of does look like him.
He kind of does.
It's not what you think if you look at his art and stuff, and you just have no idea what he looks like, and then you meet him, you're like, oh wow, hi.
I haven't seen him in many years, but yeah, he would spend his time between Japan and San Francisco.
His wife is Japanese, I believe.
Yes.
And so that's why he was over there when we were there, because we were there with Metallica, and Kirk had called him, and he invited us to go to a toy show, and Kirk was like, you guys want to go to a toy show?
Oh, that's cool.
With Pusshead? I was like, are you kidding me? Yes.
Is this Christmas?
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, they got us in like early, so we just kind of had free reign of the whole place. It was one of the more memorable
That's very cool.
experiences I've ever had. Yeah.
That's right.
How did you get in touch with them to do that art?
Well, Damned, Philip's old band, he had done a record for them. So that's how they're and it was via the record label at that time too. Ken from Prank was friends with him, lived in San Francisco.
Oh, word.
He liked the record and wanted to do it. So he did. He ended up doing our first 7-inch, our first record, and then another 7-inch. I'm looking at them on my wall right now. I love Pusshead. He's amazing, and then he's the OG. So that was cool working with him.
It is. I love when stuff like that works out. We for the Sword. I think it was for Age of Winters. Or no, this might have been the second record, Gods of the Earth. We wanted to get Roger Dean to do the art.
Oh, yeah.
Who I don't know if anybody out there knows him. He did a lot of Yes covers. He's a very famous artist. He does really cool, like otherworldly kind of stuff. It might have been Warp Riders we tried to get him for. I can't remember, but we found a contact number for him online.
That's awesome.
And
His work
we called
is
the
cool.
number. It is amazing, but we called the number. Somebody answered like hello, and we're like, hi, we're just trying to reach Mr. Roger Dean. He's like, yeah, speaking. I was like, oh shit, like
Okay, now
I didn't know I
what?
was gonna be like talking. I didn't know I could like call you right now, but he was actually really interested in it, but he was busy with something else, so we had to go another route, unfortunately. But I don't know. At least got to say hi to him. But
That's funny.
art, love it.
I know. And there are a lot of great artists, kind of in that heavy music scene. Of course, a lot of the art got played out, of the whole psychedelic metal art look. I got tired of seeing it after a while, but there's a lot of talent out there. It was all I had fun digging through the internet to find. I was like, who's the next person we're going to use?
Totally. Yeah, it's always that kind of. It's cool when you work with an artist for a time, but then you always have to kind of like break out of that mold.
Yeah,
and
totally.
find the next wave of stuff. We always tried to have just a new unique direction for every release.
Yeah,
and just sort of.
And
like,
I think
have that theme spin off,
I think you did. As I think Kylesa tried to do that too. And then we ended up working with a friend of mine who lives here named Sean Beardry, and he did like the last couple of records of ours. He's just a talented artist.
Mm-hmm. But then, as things do, they wind down, unfortunately, and like some bands can't really last.
It's not
forever,
sustainable.
Unfortunately,
I mean,
it's not. I mean, there was the wave, in the 70s and 80s. If you got in and just had that weird kind of lightning strike, where you have a hit and you can just keep going forever and make tons of money. Sure, but that doesn't happen really anymore.
Not
ever.
at all.
I mean, it can if you're like, who, I don't know who's the new pop sensation.
If you're
right now.
like a pop star, or
God bless him.
Yeah,
I'm not
sure.
hating on it at all.
Sure.
It's cool, but it's just for just a rock band. It's not sustainable at all. And to keep that many people, 4 or 5, however many people on the same page too, for that long, as you all kind of grow and have different needs and desires and things like that. God, it's just your email thread just turns into like Congress.
Yeah,
after a while,
mean, you're basically married to 5 other people, and it's just like, okay, it's you nailed it, dude. It's difficult, and the older you get, all of a sudden you have more financial responsibilities, or desires, needs, wants, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I'm not having fun, or if I'm not making a lot of money,
right,
then I don't know, I have to rethink things.
It's like, why are we here?
Yeah.
It's been how long? How many years has it been? How old am I?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
When we took a break, it was much needed. I was like, I was kind of tired of the heavy music scene. I was tired of my band. I was just tired. I was tired of, we had shitty management. I wasn't happy with our book. I wasn't all the signs were like, you need to just stop this, or at least for a while. So, it was good. We needed to do it for our sanity. And I don't. But go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying. But the music is still in you.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I mean? It's just
for
like
sure.
kind of just comes out in different ways and stuff. That's why when you hit the road with the discussion, I loved. I don't know exactly how you said it when you booked the European tour, but you're like, look, I want to book a European tour, but like, I don't care about the shows, like lots of days off, museums, like let's make this into a vacation.
Yes,
kinda, like mentality. I loved that. I thought that was great. Cause Europe can be a total, it's wonderful being over there and playing shows and stuff, but traveling across it can be really difficult.
Yes.
Because there's just not a lot to do between the cities and stuff like that. And just, I don't know, it's sometimes you're just pressed for time. You don't really get to see much.
Yeah, there was no time.
Like that,
and for me with Kylesa, I was like I was the Lone Ranger when it came to exploring. I was like, well, I want to go to the museum. I want to go to the castle. I want to do this. I want to go swim in that weird river.
Yeah.
So, and no one, everyone else was like, I'm just going to stay here and on this couch.
Smoke pot and eat ham.
Yeah.
You know?
So, yeah, there was a lot. And I was just like not wanting to do that. So in 20, when I was booking the tour, and I just booked the discussion tour off of my contacts with Kylesa. And, the demo or what became the first EP wasn't even finished. I was just like, look, I just promise you it won't suck. You just book my band. I'll play a couple Kylesa songs. It won't suck. It's not metal, so it's gonna be different. But like I said, I booked. It was half vacation, half tour, and it was mostly just for fun. Because I didn't make any money. It was,
no.
But we spent money. But that was, I knew that going into it. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun, and I'll probably never be able to do a tour like that again.
Look at one. So, did you get any weird backlash from the idiots online that was like, "This isn't heavy. This isn't metal," or anything like that? Did any, or was pretty much everyone really supportive?
Most everyone was supportive. I think if people who weren't interested just didn't come or were like, oh, it's cool. I mean, because Kylesa fans, there's like the diehards, there's the casual listeners, there's people who just like heavy music, and then there's people who are, I don't know, interested in what I do or what Philip does or whatever. So those people who were... people came out. I would say, the shows were pretty small, but people came out, and in most the response was really positive. So, that's cool.
That's great that you're able to avoid that kind of pigeonhole, I guess, mentality.
I had to get out of it, man. I thought after Kylesa, I was like, well, I guess it would be the safest for me to just stay in this genre and just write a heavy record that sounds like Kylesa, sort of. Right. But, Kylesa was me and Phil writing all the songs, so it definitely... it was kind of the sum of the parts, Yeah.
I feel that 100%.
But I was just like, I just don't want to play down. I don't want to down tune my guitar. I want to play. I want to play these poppy melodies, and I want to do something pretty different.
It's kind of goth. I like it.
Yeah, it is kind of. It's kind of like, I love I grew up listening to like new wave and a lot of post. I love punk rock. So all the post punk and punk rock is kind of hidden in there. It is kind of goth. It's kind of psychedelic. And the newer stuff I'm writing, I think, is still along those lines. But I don't know. We'll see how the songs kind of finish out.
Yeah. Are you going forward with the discussion name, or is it going to be a dude? Okay, cool.
Yeah. The discussion is just my solo project. So it's...
Yeah.
It's mainly... It's hard to find people to play with here in Savannah. Savannah's super small, and I'm picky. At this point, I'm not going to just play with anybody. So with the last single I did, I just did everything myself except for the drums.
That's what I've been doing with all my solo stuff.
Yeah.
It's nice because you don't have to wait on anyone.
Yeah, and I can just
and anything like that. Yeah,
it's worked out well for now. I don't know if it's always going to be like that, but for now it will be. Mm-hmm. And I can do most everything in my house too, which is good, except for the drums. Like I can't. Mm-hmm. I'm not a drummer, and I do like live drums. So. Versus instead of like a drum machine or something. Mm-hmm. So I have a guy in South Carolina who's been doing the drums for me, which is cool. So.
Does he just do them separately and send them to you, or do you get to go there and kind of the action? So
Kylesa recorded at this place called the Jam Room in South Carolina for many years. And Jay Matheson, the owner of the Jam Room, has always been kind of a mentor and a friend. And when I told him about this project, I was like, why don't you help me mix this at first? And then I was like, well, do you know a drummer? And his buddy, he's in a band with, He was like, well, yeah, I'll get Kevin to play some drums. He's into it. And so I just sent them like a couple tracks with like programmed drums that I did as like a guide. And then they just, it's all to a click. So then he just laid the drums down, and then
Cool.
They sent them back to me. And then Jay helped, Jay's an engineer, so he made sure the drums sounded good, basically.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to bother with a label? Are labels important anymore?
I don't know. Do I don't really know if they are. I'm not really bothering with it at the moment. I think if we're able to ever get on the road again, maybe I will. But if this is just like my home project, then I don't see a huge point. I mean, the exposure maybe would be nice. Maybe a bit of a budget for recording, because this has all just been out of my pocket. Mm-hmm. So maybe.
Yeah. It's such a strange environment because labels are just getting bought up by bigger labels to the point where right now, I don't know how many there are exactly, but I know there's about 3 major, huge kind of label conglomerates right now. They're just buying up everything with the intention that they'll eventually just own everything that's being streamed, and that their goal is to take a record label from what it was and just pare it down to 2 people in a room counting streams.
Yeah.
And that's it, when you're stuck in a contract that got bought by some other label that got bought by a bigger label, and then you're just like, you're like tears deep with like legal teams that you have to go through to like get anything done, and then like you try to get a record pressed and they hit you with the bill, and I'm just like, what's the advantage of being on a label anymore?
Exactly.
Like
if I were to do a label, it would be a smaller indie label for sure, and with a very clear contract.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just I don't really need one at the moment. If that changes, then I'll look into it. But
it's sad.
The whole thing is sad. Like you're talking about, like being in our age group. We touring was a thing, and buying records was a thing, and it's super. You can't make a living doing this. It's very few people do, and it ends up being more about their brand than about the music. Mm-hmm. A lot of times.
I try not to get too down about it.
I know,
in the
right?
scheme of things, I've said this before, but like in the scheme of music being around since basically the beginning of humanity, there was really only a very short window where anybody could get super rich at it or make a living.
That's true.
From like the mid 50s to about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's really not that much time, and so that being said, like I think the type of person, the musician out there, that personality type, it's just they're still going to be there. It's just going to be a different set of rewards for that work or whatever. It's kind of like going back to medieval times where bards are going to be just singing for their drinks that night or whatever, and that's just kind of the role of that kind of person, I guess, in this society, just because music isn't as important as it was whenever. Do you remember soundtracks? Remember when every movie had like a super killer soundtrack?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Like maybe the film score will like go off because people like that or whatever. But yeah, it's just like, man, like when like The Crow.
Oh God.
Or Mallrats or any movie back then.
I still have my
soundtrack.
CD from the Crow soundtrack. I still have that CD. Yeah, that was such a crucial one. Judgment Night was another good one.
Oh my God, that one. Or there was another one that was like a collab too. It was like bands with who was it? Damn it. Spawn.
Yeah.
The Spawn soundtrack. It was like all like techno bands mixed with metal bands. Doing that kind of like Judgment Night was like hip hop mixed with like alternative bands.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so cool. God, I miss soundtracks.
I know, I do too.
Music was so important.
I know, it was so important.
It seemed like it was like an overarching like cultural thing, whereas like
it really was.
When you turn on MTV and you saw these kids going to these shows like with Foo Fighters or Green Day, and like that was my only lifeline of like, look, there are people like me out there. Like I can totally like drop out of high school and like do this. That I can totally do that. You know, that's like a legitimate
Absolutely.
like kind of career path. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah. These days it's crazy. I don't know. There's no way. I don't know. Am I wrong? Is there nothing like that for a kid to turn to?
I just think it's
there's so much now.
I just think it's so different. I think the platform of social media has changed everything, and it's so different. It's just like, you know, you could just go on YouTube and be some weird YouTube star for 15 minutes. I mean,
yeah,
it's just so bizarre, man. I mean,
it's
just totally
like
different.
Like the review sites that get way more famous than the artists,
right,
or whatever. You know, like you can. Yeah, I've said it before. Like you can get more famous than an artist by like making a video of their song than the artist could for making the song. You know,
right?
it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy, and it's constantly having to be able to adapt and be savvy in your own right to try to make money doing it. I mean,
you think the bottom will fall out? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. If you
well, I do like the fact that you can get direct fan support with various sites like Patreon and which I need to sign up for one of those, but you know,
get you some
Kickstarter, you know, like what you did with your book and stuff. I mean, you know, you have people who are interested in what you do, and then they help you do it. You know, it does cut out that middleman. But it's a lot more. It's a lot of hustle, for sure.
A lot of hustle. I do really enjoy direct fan involvement.
I do too.
I'm just that kind of person. Some. It's not for everyone though, so I get that.
Right.
But it's definitely like one of those things where I have to lean into it.
Yeah.
Pretty hard.
Yeah.
To support my family and stuff like that. Now, so because I get these ideas and then I just run with them, and then now I'm like, shit, I have to write a book. All right. So it definitely, yeah, you're right. It's you have to turn that hustle up.
Yeah, definitely.
And try to survive, like, because I'm kind of like I'm more toward like the old fart end of the age than I am like the new young kid. I was always like the young kid.
Yeah,
back in the day,
I was too. I was like the youngest
one.
one, and now I'm like the oldest one. So
I know, it's crazy.
It is weird. I mean, yeah, it's like, okay, I see what these young kids are doing, but I'm not a young kid. You know,
right.
I can implement some of those ideas and some of this stuff, but like I also have to stay true to who I am and my age group, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
I was just gonna ask though, like, do you think the bottom's gonna fall out of the whole YouTube star thing and just like everybody being just so plugged in all the time? Just because I feel like at some point, and I'm probably wrong, I don't know how this works, but I feel like at some point humans are going to develop this like digital allergy or something,
right?
To where like they like physically can't tune into that stuff because they'll break out in hives or something. I don't know. It's just like because
I hope so. For the sake of humanity, I try not to be negative, but I there's so many pros to all this technology, but there are a lot of cons, and we are the big social experiment right now, especially younger generations, and it's crazy how a lot of these young people can't even have a normal social interaction in real time, face to face with someone else. That it has to be online and within certain parameters of what is socially acceptable. And I think that's scary.
I don't like it. I feel like the horse on Ren and Stimpy. No, sir. I don't like it.
No, sir. I don't like it.
I miss just going to shows.
Oh man,
that was where you saw all your friends, and like it wasn't like this constant online thing you have to keep up with and everything. It was just like, oh, you should go to the show because then everybody's going to be there and you'll get to see everybody, and then you also get to see
some cool music,
floor play or whoever, know, and it's just man, it was different times.
I miss shows. I really miss punk shows. I just miss shows in general. I miss a sweaty punk show at someone's house. I miss a loud rock show at a bar or theater. I just miss going to shows. I miss seeing live music. very, very, very much. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm to the point where I'm like, if there were any punk bands in Savannah, which I don't think there are, I would have them in my backyard. I'm like ready to have. I'm like, come play my backyard. My neighbors won't care. Let's just have a show. I'm so ready for live music.
That's awesome.
So what's it like in Austin right now? I mean,
I don't know. I'm in Tampa. I'm just.
Are you in Tampa?
I blew town. I'm actually going to be in Savannah pretty soon. Maybe we should get together.
Absolutely. Wait. Yeah. Hold up. Do you live in Tampa?
I don't. I actually live in an Airstream travel trailer full time with the family. And Austin got so depressing just seeing the city die.
Yes.
And not being able to play music and everything. The one of the advantages of having your home on wheels is that you can just up and leave whenever you want. And so
that is amazing. That is so amazing, Kyle. My former partner and I used to talk about doing that, exactly what you're doing.
It's worth it. We've been in it for a few years.
No kidding.
We did the whole West Coast and everything. We spent last winter in a town called Yachats on the Oregon coast that is just a little slice of heaven. It just wasn't sustainable, so we came back to Texas so that I could open a bar and do all kinds of things. And then, we were about ready to do that in February. We were scouting locations and things. I was managing another bar. The Sword was about to get ready to go on tour again, and then COVID happened.
And then the world ended.
Ruined all that.
Yeah.
And then we held in there for a while, just like kind of let's just put that on the back burner for 6 months, and then like almost a year later, we're like things are not changing. My daughter's just going insane, hanging out here, just doing nothing. Like, Austin's actually not that cool if the city is shut down.
I wouldn't think so.
Not a beautiful place necessarily to go hiking around in all the time and this and that and everything. And she wanted to go to the beach, so I said, you know what, baby, we're going to the beach. So we came to Tampa for a little bit. Cool. My friend here, Austin, he helps me do all my graphic design stuff. We went over some proofs and stuff here, being very responsible, of course, with all the nastiness out there. But it's been interesting traveling, watching the Capitol building get raided, and like this, just the nation kind of falling apart.
Oh my goodness! I'm like, I can't.
We're sort of just taking life back for ourselves.
Good,
right now.
Good for you.
So yeah,
as you should. Well, yeah. Definitely let me know when you come to Savannah. There's no way I'm going to let you come to my city and not see you or show you around or tell you where to go or whatever.
Deal. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, seriously, we'll be there in a couple of days. We're headed to St. Augustine today, and then probably Savannah like the day after tomorrow or something. So I'll let you know for sure.
Cool.
But I don't want to take up all your time. I sincerely appreciate you coming on the program and just
great
talking about life and music. What do you have coming up next that you want to, anything you want to promote or any songs you want to play?
I'll play the latest single I did, which is now like almost a year old, but
it's new to us.
Yeah, new to you. It's called Death Tripper, and it's by my recent project, The Discussion. And I was just going over some demos this morning, and my next immediate goal for the next 6 months is to get at least all the demos completed for my next EP, and then either shop it to a label or just put it out myself, record it myself, and put it out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so happy you're just still creating. You're one of my favorites. We used to, we have so much in common because we're both blonde. We both have gap teeth. We both played Guild S100s, stood on the same side of the stage. We both in bands, like your band had my name in it.
I know.
It was.
We're basically best friends.
Basically, yeah, it was meant to be.
It was meant to be. I've always had a lot of respect for you, Kyle, and your mates. Always had a fun time playing shows with you and hanging out. You meet a lot of people on the road, and there's some cool people, and there's some not so cool people.
That's right.
So when you find people who are kind of the same ilk, you remember that.
Thanks so much for tuning into The Highway this week. A big shout out to Reverend Guitars, Railhammer Pickups, and Earthquaker Devices. If you liked what you heard, you can follow where you can follow, subscribe where you can subscribe, and if you want to go one step further, you can support us on Patreon at The Highway with Kyle Shutt. For a few bucks a month, you can help us keep this party going, get early access to next week's episode, and even get yourself a shout out.